Monday and welcome to this old school edition of the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast, a show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The show is at PBW Podcast on all of those platforms as well. So make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you find your podcast. Make sure you follow us on social media. That's the best way to keep up with all of our news, as well as make sure that you get our show as soon as it becomes available, because we drop brand new shows on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then sometimes on Fridays or sometimes whenever we want. We are cranking out the bonus shows, and they're going to be coming a whole lot more frequently. Make sure you keep it tuned in at PPW Podcast and wherever you find your podcast. Also, make sure that you subscribe to bodyslam.net's YouTube channel. That is the way to get the video version of our show. And as always, make sure that you show your support to sportnarium.com/player. That's those guys over at SportsWire. Tom and the crew do a great job over there of being our partners and supporting us. So make sure you support them as well. Okay. Again, my name is Chris Belcher. I'm sorry that I rambled at the beginning of all these episodes, guys. I just want to make sure that you know where we are. If this is your first time listening, I want to get you up to date. Make sure you're educated on what we do. Thank you so much for stumbling upon our show. We greatly appreciate it. All those places that I mentioned earlier, that's where you can find our past episodes. So make sure you check those out. Joining me, as always, is the Young Buck, ladies and gentlemen. The Indie darling, Andy York, is with us on a Monday. Andy, are you ready for an old school education?
I am. I'm very excited. This is going to be on one of my favorite, actually my favorite WWE pay-per-view of all time. And
Yes.
So I am very excited about that. Before we actually jump into it, though, I do have a question. I'm going to quiz the teacher of the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast. But do you know what Rick Rude, Paul London, Bully Ray, and Finn Balor have in common?
Wow, that is an eclectic group of people. I do not know what they have in common.
They've each only appeared in the Rumble once.
Really?
Yep.
Bully Ray's only Rumble was the one he came back in Philly?
Yep, that was the only one he was in, because all the other ones he was in tag matches.
What?
Finn Balor was injured in 2017.
Yeah.
Was in it in 2018.
Yeah.
Wrestled Brock in 2019.
Yeah.
And was NXT for 2020 and 2021. So that may change this year, but he's only appeared in it once.
Wow.
The one that shocked me the most was Rick Rude. He's only been in it once.
Rick Rude was really in and out of the company at the time, in his short time there, which is really funny because he had great WrestleMania matches. Hey, he's known for SummerSlam matches, and the one other Royal Rumble appearance, he did the pose down with the Ultimate Warrior. Wow, that is so interesting. Of course, we're talking about the Royal Rumble, Andy's favorite pay-per-view. It is Royal Rumble season. Andy, at the time that this episode drops, we are less than a week away, 5 days away, actually, because it's on a Saturday this year. The Royal Rumble, I can hardly wait, man. It's going to be great. Again, make sure you keep it tuned in here. We're going to do a full Royal Rumble preview this coming Wednesday. And I haven't cleared this with Andy yet, but I'm sure he's going to be fine with it. We're going to do a bonus episode this week as well, where we devote an entire episode to AEW. Why is that? Because number one, Beach Break is this week, and it's going to be a big time show. A lot of rumors are pointing to one of my favorite guys making his debut. So I hope that doesn't happen, but it's going to be a big show. So we want to talk about it, but the Royal Rumble is this week. So we want to devote the majority of our time to previewing that, because it is a staple WWE premium live event, not pay-per-view. So that being said, there will be a bonus episode coming your way this Friday when we talk all about AEW Beach Break, catch you up on AEW news and that sort of thing. Now that all that's out of the way, Andy, why we are here, this old school episode, guys, we are counting down our top 10 favorite Royal Rumble moments, Royal Rumble performers, Royal Rumble matches themselves. Now, we're not doing matches on the Rumble card, just the Rumble itself. But Andy, I couldn't find the right way to categorize this whole thing because there's
Right.
a little bit of everything on here because so many things stand out when you have such a massive event like the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, there's so many different avenues and things that you can take with the Rumble. Because you can talk about the Rumble match itself. I mean, you've got a whole thing now with surprise entrances. You have a whole thing with like certain guys in the Rumble. You know, when they show up, something amazing is going to happen, which is
Yep.
part of my list here as well. So, like,
Sure.
there's a lot of different things, winners, all of this different stuff. I will go ahead and be very upfront about my list. My list is a very modern take on the Royal Rumble because, to be fair, the oldest Rumble I've ever watched was 1992, and then I'd skipped until like 1997. So I missed a lot of
Man.
Rumbles in between, and just kind of have hit and miss since then. And then from like 2010 on is all the Rumbles I've watched live and each and every year. So this is a very modern take. I do have some older
Sure.
stuff in there, so this is going to be me kind of learning about some moments that I may have missed or have never heard of. So I'm very excited about this episode.
It's going to be a lot of fun, man, because I'm going to throw in some moments that I know you're not going to have on your list. But that you know about,
Mhm.
and realizing why they belong on a list of top 10. I'm not saying that mine's right above everybody else's. What I'm saying is this is old school 101 for a reason.
Right.
This is about not only teaching you, but obviously I'm going to learn a thing or two because you just quizzed me and I had no idea. But it's to make sure that all of our listeners are caught up on what's going on,
Right.
and why we feel the way we feel about some things. So let's get to it. Before we hit number 10, I know I have a couple honorable mentions, and I know you do as well. Hit us
Yeah.
with a couple honorable mentions that just didn't make your list for whatever reason.
So the honorable mentions for me, I have three of them. The first one is the Three Faces of Foley because that is just
Nice.
such a cool
Yep.
idea and that's such a cool moment. We obviously went back and watched that when we did our Mick Foley episode, so definitely go check that back out.
Yes.
And then part of that is, or not part of that. I don't remember if it's part of that or not, but the Stone Cold 1997 Royal Rumble
Yes. Mm-hmm.
was a lot of fun. Stone Cold in that Rumble is a lot of fun to watch. It's got the moment that I think might be one of my favorite moments in Rumble history when he sits on top of the corner with the watch and does that, and I use that all the time. So that's definitely a big one for me. And then a newer one that didn't quite make the list, but 2018, the Rumble as a whole,
Oh,
is
nice.
so good. I love the Final Four with Roman and Finn versus Cena and Orton, I believe it was.
Yeah.
It came down to the no. It was, I'm sorry, it
Not
was Shinsuke and Finn versus Cena and
and Roman.
Roman. Yeah.
Yep.
And so that's the year that Shinsuke won it. So that was definitely a big time moment as
Yep.
well. So that whole Rumble might be my favorite. I don't know. It's one of my favorite Rumbles. It's
There
one of
you
my
go.
favorite Rumbles. It's like top 3, top 4 for me. But that didn't make the list as well. But it was definitely right up there to making it.
I had the Three Faces of Foley on the outside of my list as well. I mean, it's a very cool moment. You
Hmm.
mentioned it. Make sure you go back and check out our archives where we did an entire episode about Mick Foley and his Royal Rumble career. Very underrated. You don't want to miss that one. But the Three Faces of Foley, just outside of my top 10. I actually had it in my top 10 and it got bumped out. Another one that made an honorable mention for me that I don't think you'll put on your list, but it's nostalgia for me, was Jeff Jarrett's return in 2019 with Elias. It was one of the coolest things
Yeah.
ever for me. I love it, love it, love it. Love Jeff Jarrett, especially now that he has his own podcast and gets to tell
Hmm.
his stories and stuff. But it's so cool, man. That was honestly one of my favorite moments in history. But again, it just couldn't make my list. And then my third one, I'm pretty sure is on your list, so I think we'll talk about it later. But it's just outside for me. Is 2005 the moment between Batista, John Cena, and Vince McMahon,
That's
and
not
that
on my
whole
list.
wow didn't
That's
make
not
your
on my
list.
list. I
Okay,
did not. That was just on the outside as well. But
T-
not for the tie, just for Vince McMahon tearing both of his
yes,
quads. That's the
the
only
the
reason why
whole
I made it.
the whole situation just to me when you talk Royal Rumble, that's just something that jumps out.
That Rumble might be on my list, but not for that reason.
Okay,
I
okay,
think I have to do some quick research because I did not necessarily look up the year, but I think it was that year.
okay.
But yeah,
Um, So for all of you who do not know what we're talking about, make sure that you go back and watch the ending of the 2005 Royal Rumble. You will not be disappointed. And then I want you to go over to YouTube and search for an interview that Edge did on Inside the Ropes. It's a company over in England, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells his perspective of this story because Cena and Batista were the last two, but Edge got eliminated right before that. So he's in the aisleway when all this is happening. So
it's amazing.
You want to go hear his story for
it's
sure.
So funny. It's so funny.
Gosh. All right, I'll throw to you first. Let's go number 10. What is we're gonna go back and forth on this and we'll discuss these moments. This will be a lot of fun. Number 10 moment in Rumble history. What you got?
So my number 10 is actually my 10 and 9 are Rumbles themselves.
Okay.
And so number 10 for me is actually the first ever female or the women's Royal Rumble. Because it was a big historical moment, which WWE loves to have their historical moments. But it was a really great Rumble. It was better than I anticipated it to be. I thought it was going to be not necessarily boring, but I thought it was going to be very nostalgia heavy, which obviously it was, and it had to be. But they did it very tastefully. Obviously, Asuka winning the whole thing was a massive plus. That was really, really great as well. And then obviously at the end of it, you get Ronda showing up and pointing to the sign every 5 seconds and just staring at the sign and all of that fun stuff. But the first ever women's Royal Rumble, I really enjoyed it. My only gripe, I guess you could say, is I don't think Michelle McCool should have set the record for most eliminations. I think it probably should have been somebody newer or somebody that's more established on the roster. But other than that, it was a lot of fun. Sasha being the Iron Woman of the match was a great call. And so, yeah, everything about it was just really, really good.
Sasha carried that one for sure. I'm not saying that the whole thing wasn't good, like you said, but they needed a mainstay. They needed a quarterback in there that could call the shots and make sure that everything ran smoothly. I think that was Natty 2019 or 2020. I don't remember which one. But Natty did it. Sasha did it. You got to have somebody in there that can help call the shots and navigate everything, especially man, that first Royal Rumble, you put all that pressure on Sasha Banks and she delivered for sure. And then it was great all around. I loved it. I'm with you. It did not make my list, but I thought it's very appropriate that it's on yours. Number 10 on my list is the return of Christian in 2021. One of my favorite Rumble moments of all time. And we'll talk about his brother here in a few minutes, but it was just so out of nowhere, just so not what we expected.
No,
so just out of left field, man. And then for him and Edge to have the moment in the ring in 2021, cool. So cool, man. So that's number 10 on my list.
Yeah, no, that was a really cool moment. Like you said, some of these surprise entrances we kind of can see coming or understand coming, but this that one was definitely a massive, massive shock.
For sure. All right, number 9, what you got?
So number 9 is actually 2 Rumbles put together, but for the same exact reason, and that's the 1992 and the 2016 Royal Rumbles. Just for the fact that they were for the championship, I think that
very cool.
Definitely adds a new flavor to it. I'm glad that they don't do this often. I think they've only done it twice. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that they've only done it these 2 times.
I think right.
As far as I can remember. So, but both of them were really great. The 2016 one, obviously, I remember more because that was during the Roman hate hype during all of it, and that's when you had another debut that showed up that I'm sure we will both talk about a little bit later.
Yes,
you also had the final 4 or the final 2 of Triple H and Dean Ambrose, which honestly, if they would have made that the main event of WrestleMania, it would have been, people would have absolutely loved that.
Sure.
You had the weird setup between Brock and the Wyatt family that never happened for some reason. I don't remember why. I think Bray got hurt.
Yeah.
And so that never happened. And so it was just a weird Rumble. The 2016 one was. It was a weird Rumble, but it was a lot of fun. Obviously, 1992 was won by Flair, which was a lot of fun. Going back and watch that.
Which we'll get to,
I'm sure, here in a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, but both of those Rumbles being for the championship make them feel so special and so different. So I had to put both of them in the top 10.
Number 9 for me is going to be a matchup in the Royal Rumble, and I think it's interesting when certain matchup happen in the Rumble and they last a long time and they deliver and all that kind of stuff. Mine comes from 2007. The final two in 2007 was Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker.
Yeah.
And this was 2 years before the WrestleMania match. These two guys just absolutely tore it up in 2007. What a fantastic final two. It was in San Antonio, where Shawn's from. Taker's a Texas guy, so the crowd was really split. Nobody at that point had ever won from the number 30 spot. And The Undertaker was the first one to do it. He eliminated Shawn Michaels at the end. So you could see when Shawn was eliminated, the crowd was just kind of bittersweet because they were like, man, it was Shawn. We wanted Shawn to win, but then it's like, oh, but it's The Undertaker. We can't boo The Undertaker. So it worked out, but it was great. I mean, I absolutely loved the end of the 2007 Rumble. So that's number 9 on my list for that reason.
Yeah, I love the mini matches inside the Rumble that we get as well. It's kind of like what Survivor Series used to be in some ways, of like the matchups we never thought we would see, which kind of comes into play a little bit later for mine. But yeah, it was really cool to see all that.
Plus, it was The Undertaker's first win, or first and only Royal Rumble win. It came in 2007. All right, we're on number 8. 8 on your list. What you got?
So mine, number 8, is actually an elimination from the 2005 Royal Rumble. Probably my favorite elimination maybe of all time, and that is Paul London's decapitation elimination. When he got sent to the outside, I think it was Snitsky that clotheslined him.
Yep.
And he did the shooting star press cell onto the floor and everything. It was, anytime you watch like the top Rumble moments or whatever on YouTube video or like the compilation, this one is always in there. And it's
coming up. Yep.
It may be my favorite elimination of all time. I can't really think of another one that kind of surpasses it. Maybe when was it Strowman? I think it was Strowman eliminated James Ellsworth by just chokeslamming him straight to the floor without touching the apron. But yeah, the Paul London one was brutal and so much fun to watch.
Another one to go back and watch is in the 2007 Royal Rumble. Sabu is in it, and Kane chokeslams him through a table, and that's his elimination. So yes, fun eliminations. Yeah, the Paul London one gets shown all the time. It's pretty great. Paul London's elimination. All right, my number 8 is going to be Triple H's return and win in 2002. Now, why this is significant, obviously, he's coming off an injury that his doctor said he had never seen anybody come back from the way that he came back. And that was the first time he tore his quad, and then he turns around and he does it again. But anyway, but just to his pop that he got, his return at Madison Square Garden a couple of weeks before was just absolutely insane. The guy was the number 1 heel in the company when he was injured. And then he came back and he was automatically the number 1 babyface in the company. It's like, so for that to translate over to the Royal Rumble, for him to win and him to be the world champion, beating Chris Jericho at WrestleMania that year, he was set up for a great babyface run as a champion. And then Hulkamania hit and everything pivoted and yada, yada, yada. But Triple H deserves a spot to me on this list. And his first win in 2002, obviously, we mentioned 2016. He's going to go on and win that one as well. But his first one, 2002, makes the cut for me.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, number 7.
So number 7 for me is actually what I've kind of called Brock's run in 2020 when he came out at number 1 and he was going forward. Is that one of yours?
We both have the same number 7, so this is fun.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Because the reason why I have it in here is because of the matchups that we got with Brock during this run. And like it was the first time or the second time, because obviously this was after his Money in the Bank run. But this is where we start to see like a different side of Brock when he's like dancing the guy's music coming out and everything else. So like the one that the matchup that sticks out the most to me, and it depresses me that we're not going to get to see this, but when Keith Lee came out, Brock Lesnar made Keith Lee in that moment.
Yes, he did.
Keith Lee was made was made a star twice before even getting called up to the main roster. Once was in Survivor Series against Roman in 2019, Rumble 2020. Brock, when he came out, Brock's face and talking about, big boy, like we got a big boy coming to the ring and everything. Like all of that was absolutely amazing to see that. Brock's interaction with the New Day was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was great.
He was doing a lot of selling for them as well. Him and Shelton Benjamin together was
great.
very interesting. I'm trying to think who else. Elias coming out and then Brock just kind of beating the crap out of Elias was great. The only complaint is John Morrison's first Rumble back. And he got eliminated so quick. I was expecting him to do something really cool. That didn't happen. But yeah, Brock's 2020 run is my number 7.
And I'll add on to that because that's my number 7 as well. The pop when Drew McIntyre eliminated Brock Lesnar was one of the coolest things you'll ever see. And then, of course, Drew going on to win the match. And then, of course, Edge debuting in the match, which
we'll talk about.
Is going to get talked about later. But not Edge's debut, Edge returning, whatever. Anyway, but just that whole psychology of that whole match, immediately afterwards, Twitter was flooded with people saying that was the greatest Royal Rumble ever. Immediately. So for it to have that kind of impact that quickly for a guy that I've been known to hate on, you've been known to hate on, everybody's been known to hate on, being the centerpiece of the whole thing. I mean, it was fantastic, and it has to make a list to me. I think it's funny that we both agreed at number 7, but just the whole Rumble of 2020 in general was just fantastic.
I think what's really interesting is I remember hating on the fact that Brock was going to be in the Rumble and coming out at number 1. Like that to me, that it didn't fit. It didn't feel well. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes in, I was like, nope, this is amazing. When Brock cares about something and has fun with it, you can't. When Brock cares and has fun, he's almost unbeatable in the ring by anybody really. And so that's one of those moments. It was so much fun to watch that. I go back and watch it every once in a while just to see the interaction with Keith Lee, to see the big pop. Everybody forgets that Ricochet had a massive play in that for some reason, which was really weird.
I guess in their commentary they were talking about they had an interaction the Monday before on Raw. So I guess Brock and Ricochet had something which made that make sense. I don't remember exactly, but vaguely. But yeah, man, it was so good. I rewatched this the other day and I was just impressed all over again. And it's just so sad that we're talking about the 2020 Royal Rumble as to what was to come after that, of course, with the pandemic and everything shutting down, because this Rumble, being one of the greatest of all time, set up for a humongous trajectory for the WWE. I'm telling you, I'm not trying to go on a huge sidebar here, but WWE was set up for a massive 2020. Like it was going to be awesome. You were going to have Drew McIntyre on one side, Roman Reigns on the other side. It was going to be awesome, and we didn't get it.
It definitely fell apart because of the pandemic.
No fault of their own, obviously.
No, nothing they can control.
Right. All right. Number 6. What you got on your list?
So number 6 for me is actually a person, but it'll make sense here in a second. So anytime Kofi Kingston comes to the ring in the Rumble, the way he saves himself from eliminations each and every year is so fun to watch.
Yes, it is.
You have a couple years ago when he got thrown over and Big E caught him, and they just kind of walked around the ring. I think that was 2016. Like they kind of walked around the ring. One year he stole JBL's chair. One year he caught himself on the ring post. One year he jumped to the barricade and caught himself, walked around and jumped over, which I don't fully understand how he did that. 1 year landed with his feet on the steel step. So like just the way that he eliminated. I think 1 year he got pushed off and just stood on Xavier's chest at one point. Like just all the different ways.
There's one where he did a handstand and he walked around on his hands. That was great. Yeah.
So like all the ways that he saves himself from being eliminated is something that I really look forward to every year when he's in the Rumble, and that like, every year I'm expecting that to kind of happen this year as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Especially because it didn't happen in 2020 because he got annihilated by Brock. And then 2021, I don't remember. I don't think he.
I don't remember the 2021 Rumble very much, except for who started and who finished.
I don't think he did anything too crazy, but yeah, there are those Rumble performers that just jump out to you for, a variety of reasons. Kofi being one, Kane obviously being one with the most eliminations of all time, yada yada, that kind of thing.
Roman being the final two every year somehow.
Year seems like it. So number 6 for me is actually also a Royal Rumble performer, but mine is for a different reason. Mine is Stone Cold Steve Austin, because Stone Cold Steve Austin is the only 3-time winner in Royal Rumble history. Won in 97, won it in 98, won it in 2001. So for him to set that mark, especially you mentioned earlier, his performance in the 97 Rumble was amazing. 98, I mean, like, if you looked at the 98 Rumble and the landscape and the context of what was going on in the WWE, and you didn't think beyond a shadow of a doubt that Steve Austin was going to win that Royal Rumble, like, I don't know what you were watching. Because so for WWE to make it as interesting as they did, for him to creatively win the Rumble in 98 was just fantastic. I don't remember a whole lot about the 01 Rumble. I know that it led to what many call the greatest WrestleMania of all time. I disagree, but whatever. That being said, though, Austin, for me, he's got to be on this list. The only 3-time winner, doing it in incredible fashion. So he belongs for sure. All right.
Absolutely.
We are at the halfway point. If you are just now tuning in, welcome to the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast, the show that is for the fans, by the fans. Don't know how you stumbled upon our show, but we greatly appreciate you doing so. Whether you are watching us on the BodySlam.net YouTube channel, whether you're listening on SportsWire Radio or on a traditional audio format, thank you for doing that. My name is Chris Belcher. I am your phenomenal host. Joining me on this Royal Rumble Top 10 countdown is my co-host, the Young Buck, Mr. Andy York, and we have gone 6 through 10 of our favorite Royal Rumble matches, moments, performers, etc. of all time. But now we reach the top 5, and here's where it gets down to the nitty gritty, because there are a lot of Rumble moments and matches that we haven't mentioned yet, but there's only 5 left on both sides, man. So I'll throw to you first with your number 5. What you got?
So my number 5 is actually the 2010 Royal Rumble.
Okay.
Because I think it might be my favorite Rumble of all time. Because of a surprise entrant that I'm sure we both will talk about again here in a little bit.
Yes.
As well as the end, not the end, but like the final 4, when I think it was Edge, Jericho. No, not Jericho. It was Edge, Batista,
Edge,
Cena, and
Big Show.
Shawn. Big Show, or was it Shawn?
No, it was Shawn. It was Shawn. That's right.
It was
Shawn was the
and
4th.
that's
That's
when
right.
you had Batista eliminate Shawn to set up that Undertaker match later on.
That's right.
So
That's
that was that ending was really fun. I love Shawn super kicking all the officials and everything, and
that's great.
That entire moment was great. At the beginning of the match, you had CM Punk starting off and eliminating people and cutting a promo while he was doing so, which was so much fun to listen to. That's one of my favorite moments. Beth Phoenix enters as the second ever at that point female to ever be in the Rumble after China. And then she eliminates the Great Khali, which was still
hilarious.
A weird way to eliminate, but it was fun. Punk eliminates her, and then you kind of go on this run between the 2010 Rumble. I absolutely loved it. It's one of my favorite Rumbles, for the pops that we get, for the moments that we get, and the eventual winner was really cool as well.
Yes. Very, very cool. Absolutely. I went back and watched this Rumble as well in preparation for this show. It did not make my list as a whole, but for reasons that we'll talk about later, it made my list, and I wanted to make sure of the context. But good stuff. I really enjoyed it. It had me really pressing in on the whole Shawn Michaels thing. I was bought in at the time in 2010, and I was just as bought in the other day when I watched it, wanting him to win that match, but knowing that he didn't. All right. My number 5 is the return and the win in 2008 of John Cena.
I have that on my list as well.
Okay. We will talk about that in just a few minutes then.
Very, very shortly, but yeah.
But he's number 5 on my list. All right.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Yeah, so number 4 for me is what I think is the greatest Royal Rumble participant of all time, in Chris Jericho, and his return in 2013 or 2000,
Mhm.
2013. His return. He came in at number 2.
Yes.
That year as well was the Iron Man for that year. He's been the Iron Man more than once.
He was the
He
Iron
was
Man
that
in 2016.
2018
16 too, I think.
and 18. I think he's been at 3 or 4. He's been in a couple times because
Yeah.
the 2018 was the one where he was with Kevin Owens still.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's right.
when Taker and Goldberg and Lesnar and all them were in it as well. So he was in that. But his 13 return, nobody expected it. Nobody was prepared for it. His music hit, the place exploded.
Yep.
So yeah, that's one of the greatest returns in the Rumble of all time. And yeah, I had it at number 4.
All right, my number 4 is going to be another Rumble performer, but for different reasons again. Number 4 for me is the guy we just mentioned a few minutes ago, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Shawn is a back-to-back Royal Rumble winner, 1995 and 1996, the first man to ever enter the Royal Rumble at number 1 and go all the way to the end, doing it in dramatic fashion with one foot hitting the floor. And if you notice, you go back and watch older Royal Rumbles before 1995, they do not say in the announcement with the rules that both feet have to touch the floor. After 95, they then say it because you're conditioned to Shawn's going over the top rope. You think it's over. And then they come back out and they say, well, only one foot hit. So to me, like, if you look at the context of 1995, I'll look at it in the 1998 lens, what I said about Stone Cold earlier. Right. You look at 95 and you don't think that Shawn Michaels was going to win that Royal Rumble, even coming in at number 1, you're ridiculous.
Yeah.
So even though you're conditioned to that, and you see that, and you see the group of performers, like, well, obviously Shawn's going to win, but even him getting dumped over the top, you're like, okay, that's it. But he finds a way. So all of that to say, we had never seen anything like that before. So that just 95, even though it was a terrible group of talent, to me, 95 takes the Royal Rumble up a notch.
Yeah.
How do you find a way to make it interesting again? Okay. 94 was the double winner, Brett and Luger. 95, only one foot hits the floor. Okay, now we're taking it up a notch again. So to me, that's why Shawn makes my list at number 4.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, number 3.
So number 3 is where I have Cena's return in 2008. His big win, Madison Square Garden, I believe it was. That's when they had the weird ramp during that time. Coming out to the side. This is actually this is one of the first few memories I have. Not first few, but like this is the first time I remember watching wrestling was this style of entrance. And the match I remember watching was Jericho versus Cena and Taker versus DX, I think it was.
From Monday Night Raw.
Monday Night Raw. It was the main event. So that was like the first ever match I ever saw was that match. So
wow.
This style of ring or this like entranceway definitely has a special place in my heart. And Cena's return, this was kind of at the beginning. I think when he went out with that injury was like sort of the start of the Cena hate in some ways.
It was definitely.
And then he got hurt. And then when he came back and his music hit, he came back like 5 months before he was supposed to, or something ridiculous.
Something stupid.
His music hit, number 30. Place blew off. The roof blew off the place. He was instantly the biggest babyface in that match, and it was such a great match to watch that.
Yeah, it was really good. Obviously, it made both of our lists for obvious reasons. The definition of Super Cena is not just him going in and clobbering people and whatever. It's the fact that he healed from this injury like 5 months early. And
it's not the first injury that he healed within like 5 months before he was supposed to, or something. Like he's done it 2 or 3 times.
Right, but this one was the one like nobody saw it coming. So he comes in and he wins the Rumble. Let's see. So 2008, that would have been WrestleMania 24. 24. Trying to think who he wrestled at 24.
Was it Shawn?
No, that was 23.
Because 25 was the triple threat between Big Show and Edge.
Edge and Cena, yeah.
Cena. 24 was Batista? No, that was
24 was
26.
Batista and Umaga. 24 was also Taker and Edge in the main event.
Was it Cena Triple H? Was that 24?
It might have been. I don't remember.
It's amazing that Cena was in that many main events in a row.
He's ridiculous.
But Roman's been in that many main events in a row as well. So
that's true. So John Cena, all that to say, that's his only that's his only Royal Rumble win because Batista won in 05. So, but a big time Rumble win because you come off an injury where you were not supposed to come back.
Yeah, so it was a triple threat between Cena, Orton, and Triple H.
Makes sense. Okay, cool.
That was that one.
So Cena was in a triple threat match 2 years in a row at WrestleMania. Interesting. All right. So that was your number 3. Your number 3. Okay, my number 3. Hopefully, I don't know. You might be ready to talk about this. You might not. Oh yeah, you are. The 1992 Royal Rumble is my number 3. And listen, whether you're a Ric Flair fan or not, I'm going to implore our listeners, please go back and watch this Royal Rumble. Mm-hmm. Do not discount it because it's 1992. I was thoroughly entertained by this Royal Rumble. Yep. A lot of Rumbles have a lot of downtime, a lot of whatever. This one did not. Like my attention, I was glued in the whole time. And one of the things that made it so great was Bobby Heenan's commentary throughout the whole thing. Masterful performance. Masterful. This is also, I pointed this out, or I noticed this while I was watching it, is this is the first Royal Rumble we get a singles Shawn Michaels. He has just turned on Marty Jannetty. He's just thrown him through the barbershop window, not just a few weeks earlier, okay? He gets in. Everybody talks about, I know this has nothing to do with Ric Flair and nothing to do with the finish of the match, but everybody talks about how Shawn Michaels oversold for Hulk Hogan in 2005.
Yeah.
Listen, in 1992, when the Texas Tornado comes in the Royal Rumble and he hits Shawn with a tornado punch, go back and watch Shawn sell that tornado punch. It's at like the 18-minute mark or something like that. Go watch him sell it. It is absolutely incredible. It's so good because he sells it just like he did the big boot. Like he gets hit, he spins around, he falls down, he bounces up, and he falls back down. It's fantastic. I love it. I love it. But the 92 Rumble, masterfully done. It holds up to me. Maybe not my favorite Royal Rumble of all time, but if you put everything out there, it's probably the best Royal Rumble as far as well executed. Royal Rumble, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's so good.
So good. All right. We are down to the final 2. My goodness. All right.
I feel like our final 2 may be the same.
They are.
Maybe not in the same order. I'm not sure this is how this is going to work. So
I think they are. So you go first. What's your number 2?
So my number 2 is the 2016 Royal Rumble with the debut of one Mr. AJ Styles.
Why did you think we were not going to be in the same order? We're in the same order.
I didn't know. Okay. All right.
Oh, yeah.
So number 2
definitely
is
in the same order.
Number 2 is the debut of AJ Styles in the Rumble. Yep. So good. It was so great. It was rumored that he may show up. Nobody knew when. Nobody knew if. The fact that they zoomed in on Roman's face when his music was playing so you couldn't see the Titantron to see that it said phenomenal.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you heard the crowd reaction.
The pop.
And you zoom in on the you zoom into the ramp and there's AJ Styles walking out. Yep. And it was absolutely amazing.
So
I watched this Rumble a couple days ago actually with Katie. And she was like, "Why are they cheering so loud for AJ?" I was like, "That's the first time he had ever been in WWE, and it was a big deal." And going back and watching it, like if they would have had anybody else other than Kevin Owens or Chris Jericho eliminate AJ, we might have had a 2015 Rumble back-to-back years of just being very upset. Yep. And I think it was very smart. I love going back and watching when Kevin Owens goes to eliminate him, said "Welcome to WWE" and throws him over the rope. Everything about that was just great. But yeah, his debut might be one of the greatest debuts of all time, just because of how it happened and the crowd reaction and everything that took place with it.
And don't forget the context. We're in Orlando for this Rumble. Orlando was the home of TNA for the longest of times. And so for AJ to debut in Orlando, if you guys haven't watched any of the backstage stuff, any of the Untold special where he talks about debuting, go back and watch it because it gives you incredible context to this as to why we both put it at our number 2. Because just if you go back and you look at everything surrounding AJ, like AJ was the guy that wasn't going to make it to WWE. He wasn't. That he was the one guy. And then slowly the wheels started turning. NXT opened the door for AJ Styles to even be considered, but then he was so good that, they put him right to the main roster. And then his first feud, I will never forget this. I was talking to a friend of the show, Jason Bakowitz, after it. And I said, I think his first feud needs to be with Chris Jericho. You got to have somebody that's going to put him on the map, somebody that's has no problem putting him over, knows how good he is. Boom. The very next night on Raw, AJ Jericho, and that feud goes all the way to Mania. So good, man.
They formed the tag team Y2AJ, which I forget about all the time until I go back and watch. And
they were a tag team for 3 weeks. And I think
one of those weeks was in Nashville, wasn't it?
I was there, yes.
Because I was there. Yeah, I remember. I remember watching that. Yeah. That was so cool to see those two together. And that was a perfect first feud for him. Obviously, going back, maybe not have him lose to Chris Jericho at WrestleMania, but I get why, because you kind of have to have the new guys come in and lose unless they're Fandango, and then he beats Chris Jericho in his first match.
Hey, listen, he might have lost that night, but the very next night on Raw, he wins a fatal 4-way to become the number 1 contender.
And those matches with Roman, I know people hate him because Roman won them. They're so good, though.
So good.
Go back and watch them. And then that starts to build towards that summer. We get Cena versus AJ, which is the biggest dream match that we may have, like one of the biggest dream matches we've ever gotten to see 3 times. And each match was somehow got better and better. Their first one at Money in the Bank was
so good.
So good. The one at the Rumble the next year, I think, was
2017.
Absolutely amazing. It was so great to watch that. So it all started right here in this Rumble, and it's amazing. I get every time I go back and watch it, I get chills watching it all over again.
You know what I get chills for?
The number one
moment of all time. I'm telling you, man, I went back and rewatched this. I literally got chill bumps rewatching this. And of course, we're both talking about the exact same thing, and that is the return of the Rated R Superstar Edge in 2020.
Well, I put 2010 and 2020 because
and 2021.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, he entered at number 1 and won in 2021. But like, to me, like, of those 3 moments, obviously the return in 2020 is the biggest thing. But don't take away his win in 2010 and 2021 for sure.
That the 2010 pop that he got, because he was supposed to be out for a lot longer.
Yes, he was.
And they didn't know if he was actually going to come back. Like, they didn't know if he was going to get to wrestle. Like, they didn't know,
because that was an Achilles injury.
There was a lot up in the air. And the fact that Chris Jericho was in the ring and they were a tag team beforehand, and then they started this feud without even being in the ring together. They just started this feud, and all of a sudden Edge's music hits. Jericho sells it like a madman, like he is, and it was just from there on. It was great. The Rumble, their Mania match was their Mania match was decent. It wasn't the best, but it was still really good. And then the 2020 return, he came out number 21. The pop that he got was unmatched. I think it was so loud, and it was so great. A massive stadium. One of my buddies actually lives in Texas and got to go to the Rumble that year, and was sitting behind the ramp, so he got to see him come out. And it was he said the pop was insane. It was loud. We had the we had the Rated RKO reunion. We had the first
Edge
spear got missed because
injuring AJ.
Yeah, well, that was more AJ's fault than it was Edge's fault. But
AJ's fault. That's right.
I still will not forgive them for cutting away from the first spear that we had seen Edge hit. I mean, obviously we saw him hit one at SummerSlam a couple years ago on Elias, but like in ring back Edge first spear you cut away with.
Like, Edge is entering the ring for the first time, and how could your camera not?
Why are you saying cut?
Why do you switch? Come on, Kevin Dunn.
No. Anyways,
but if you go back and watch on Peacock, it is now edited, and you do see the first spear.
Do you? Okay.
Yes,
I
they edit
haven't
it,
seen
and
that part.
yeah, if you go back and watch it, yes, it's edited and you see it now.
Good.
And then obviously, again, as a win in 2021,
Yep.
entering at number 1, lasting the whole way through, winning it. And the reason to me that was so surprising is nobody really expected it.
No.
Like, for the guy to come, like, think about that. Edge, the old guy, nostalgia. Okay, cool. He's in the Rumble. He's going to last a while, whatever. I would never have picked him to win that Rumble last year.
No,
never.
I wouldn't either.
I don't know who I would have picked, but it wouldn't have been Edge.
Especially when he came out at number 1. Like, I think if he would have come out 25, whatever, maybe then, like, okay, I could see Edge winning this. But, like, number 1, going the distance, so incredible. And at his age, and obviously he hasn't wrestled a whole lot of matches, like, coming back.
That was his first match back from injury. Where he tore his, triceps? Is that what he tore?
Against Randy?
Yeah.
At Backlash? Yeah, so the greatest wrestling match of all time.
That's his first match back.
Yeah,
and he
runs
goes
the table
from number 1 and runs the game. Man, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. It's why the Rumble is so fun, is because you get these moments that you can't get in any other pay-per-view or premium live event or whatever they call it now, or any other match type. You can't have these type of moments like you get at the Rumble. And I like, it's the one match type where you could have something as crazy and as stupid as R-Truth thinking it's a ladder match, going to underneath the ring to get a ladder and going into the ring and climbing it, and it'd be fine. A few years, I think it was 2010? It may have been 2010, where you had Mr. Sacco versus Cobra.
When
with
was
Santino
that?
Morello. I want to say 2010.
It might have been. I don't remember.
Because 2011 was the year that they did the 40-man Rumble.
Right.
And Diesel came back randomly.
Right. Yep.
And tore a quad.
Of course he did. Go figure.
But yeah, but like it's the one match type where you can have the weirdest, craziest moments and also have the coolest things in professional wrestling happen in the same night. And it's all the same match, and it's like it's the same formula each and every year. And if you do that with like Elimination Chamber, it gets boring. Hell in a Cell, it gets boring. The Rumble, it's amazing every single time.
Yep. And
even a bad Rumble is still a fun Rumble.
Sure.
And that's the difference than anything else in professional wrestling.
And see, like, I think that we can both agree that we're both not saying that Edge is the greatest Rumble performer of all time.
Right.
But those moments, like you were talking about, those 3 big ones put together, it's like, it's incredible. And like you just said, you're not going to get it at any other event. Sure, Shawn Michaels is Mr. WrestleMania, and he's had some incredible WrestleMania matches. And sure, The Undertaker won 21 in a row. And sure, WrestleMania is this big conglomeration thing. But the Royal Rumble is just so unpredictable. So unpredictable.
You never know who you're going to see. You never know when you're going to see them. You never know what's going to happen. And that's part of my total tangent here. But that's part of my issue when they like, a couple weeks ago, we're like, and the Bella Twins are going to be in the Rumble, and Lita's going to be in the Rumble. Like, I'm fine with you telling us, like, what they're doing with the men's, with, like, Big E announces he's going to be in it. Great. Kevin Owens, perfect. I don't want to know that the Bella Twins are in it. I don't want to know that Lita's in it, because now, if their music would have hit without me knowing, massive pop. Now that we know, we're expecting it. And there's a big, big difference there. And so that's the whole fun of the Rumble is the countdown, and then my favorite part of the Rumble is after the buzzer, there's like a second with no sound in the arena.
Dude, the music hits. The pause between the buzzer and Edge's music hitting.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Like, I just got chills thinking about it. Like, I love when it's like somebody big like Edge, and I also love when it's like Bo Dallas's music would hit and then there's no reaction. Like, those are 2 of the best things in the world about the Rumble. Is the pause before the music, and then the music hits, and then you get whatever you get, and it's so great.
Yep, it's so good, man. Oh my gosh. Well, man, I think that's a fantastic way to put a bow on this episode. I hope you guys that are listening or watching have had a blast reminiscing with us about our top 10 favorite Rumble moments. What's yours? Hit us up on social media at PBW Podcast. Andy's at Andy_PBWP. I am at Chris Belcher 24. Send us some love, send us some hate. We'll take it all. Doesn't matter. But we want to hear your top 10 moments. What do you think is some of the greatest Rumble moments of all time? Drop it in the comments below. Hit us up on social media. We would love to hear from you. Make sure you tune in. This week is a big week for the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast. 4 episodes this week. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. You got today's episode. Wednesday, we're going to preview the 2022 Royal Rumble Premium Live event. Friday, we're going to be covering everything AEW Beach Break and probably some things in between there. And then Saturday night after the Royal Rumble, we're going to be live right here. Make sure you tune in for your instant reaction. It's a big week. Andy, the wrestling train continues to go down the tracks as we're on the road to WrestleMania. It is the best time of year.
Oh yeah, this is from January to April is always a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to going on this ride once again. It's amazing to me that this is actually the first Rumble with a live crowd since 2020. So like this is going to be, I think they're going to have a lot of fun things in store for fans. I'm expecting some big returns, or some big just surprising moments that take place during these matches. And I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a blast. Make sure you keep it right here at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for all your up-to-date news. Again, make sure you join us Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday for brand new episodes. We cannot wait to put them out there for you. Thank you so much for checking out the show on this old school edition of the PipeBomb Wrestling Podcast. We will catch you guys down the road.